From McFarlane Toys and their DC Multiverse line, this is the Amazon exclusive DC Rebirth, Clayface, Batman, and Batwoman 3-pack. I got it on sale. Basically the whole reason I bought it. And you want to know something that's like really sad? Here, I'm going to show you something really sad. I was supposed to review this guy like weeks ago. So, yeah, as you can see, I am not the most expedient with these sometimes. So, we're gonna review this Clayface instead. And hey, we're gonna get a Batwoman and a new version of one of my favorite Batman they've ever done. So, hey, why not? Getting these three out of the box, and the first thing I'll say is, Batwoman aside, this is a very bright trio of figures. Like, Batwoman has the shocking bits of red that really bring their design to the forefront. But Batman is in a lot brighter a gray than the original Rebirth Batman. And even Clayface is a lot lighter brown than the original. I guess you could then say that these are two different Clayfaces? There's been like 5 of them in the comics, man. Do whatever you need to do to justify this to yourself. Me, I'm going to say that this one is it Basil Carlo? I know, I'm not familiar enough with Clayface. I think Basil Carlo is the actor, and then there's one who is not named Cletus Cassidy, but it's very similar, and he's basically just Carnage anyway, so I'll just go ahead and call him Cletus Cassidy. There's my 2 Clayfaces. I've justified this 3-pack to myself. So you look at Clayface, and this feels like it should be perfect. He's so monstrous looking, right? Like, look at all the disgusting recesses and parts where the clay is starting to solidify. Things like this, where the thumb and the finger are starting to melt into each other. Like, this is where McFarlane's always going to score cheap points. They are brilliant sculptors, the company is. And they've sculpted a very cool, very demented looking Clayface. Where the issues fall in is when this thing has to move as opposed to look. So you pick him up, and there feels like there's heft here, but that heft is almost entirely in the feet and the hands. This torso, just picking the torso up, the torso is incredibly hollow. And usually, that can be used on figures to give them a new sense of balance. It helps them out, right? But what that also does is if you have a very weak torso and a very weak arm, you have this. Literally right out of the box, my arm is just a touch gamey. The other arm is okay, like it's a lot more stiff, but it's just going to wear itself down over time. I think the Clayface also suffers from just a general lack of articulation. Like, I mean, you got cool points, like the head works well, and this mouth joint, oh, so gross, love it. But then the arms are very hindered by their own design. There is this very good, solid mid-torso joint here, but then there's this rubber piece. And I don't know about you guys, I'm not big on the rubber pieces on action figures. Those just fall apart over time. And then the legs themselves are just pathetic. Like, you got knees, but they're worthless. They can't even bend all that well. You have a Clayface that's going to look wonderful on a shelf, but you're going to be very hampered in terms of what you can actually do with that Clayface. I look over at some of the other big figures that McFarlane has done, figures like, I don't know, their Rebirth Bane, or their Atrocitus, or even the Anti-Monder that came out a while back, the Calabac, even. Now, these are all newer figures, but they all found a better way to incorporate their articulation despite their huge frames. Maybe Clayface is just too weird a design, and at the same time, maybe Clayface isn't even a character you want all that much articulation with. But I do think it's worth noting that if you're not into how this guy looks, you're definitely not going to be into how this guy plays. Me, I adore how he looks, so that's enough for me. But I do want to just point out the weakness here. Look at them lips on Brucey Boy. Those very pursed lips. The Rebirth Batman, just like Clayface, looks incredible. I love the lighter gray they went with here. I think they make the bat symbol pop and the purple of the cape look even better. I'm kind of sad that we moved away from the Rebirth Batman costume because I thought this was one of the best modern looks Batman's had. The purple alone really did add a lot of depth to his design that made him pop just a little bit more, I think. In terms of accessories with this figure, you of course have his grapple gun. This was included with the first release. But then his exclusive accessory is this. Very small batarang. And at first I was like, why is it colored like that? And then I realized it's because he's been stabbing Clayface with it. So you have a clay-covered batarang to go with your Batman. Good little accessory to have. This Batman has a lot of good going towards it, right? So just a universal at the head, universal at the shoulder, double joints at the elbows, and of course an upper arm rotation, universal at the wrist, diaphragm joint, and a waist joint, works in tandem perfectly, universal at the hips, double jointed knees, and the ankles down here let you go back and forward, side to side, and a boot cut. Looks good, feels good. Here's my problem with the Batman. Batman has a really hard time standing up. His ankles are incredibly weak. I'm amazed he hasn't fallen down yet. Trying to get this video ready, he was falling down constantly. I don't know why that is. The original Rebirth Batman also kind of had weak ankles. This one has it really bad though. And usually I could use a stand to kind of help it. For whatever reason, this 3-pack didn't include any stands. Which, to me, is weird because that's like a hallmark. All of the McFarlane figures come with figure stands. Not these, though. So overall, I do think Batman is the weakest figure in the pack, just because there's so many McFarlane Batmans, there's already a Batman of this costume in the line, but I do prefer this over the single release Rebirth Batman. It's just, at the end of the day, he is not the reason I bought this pack. Clayface is not even the reason I bought this pack. No, it was Batwoman that made me want this pack. Everyone knows I love my McFarlane DC collection, I do. I adore collecting this line, even though I have issues with the line every now and again. And a big thing is, I really want to get a complete Bat family out of this line eventually. And we're getting close. With the inclusion of Batwoman, I really feel like this is going to bring the Bat family shelf together just a little bit more. There's so much to like about this figure. The head sculpt is just phenomenal. I love this hair especially, how there's a little bit of a dry brush to it as well to give it some definition. The costume design has always been incredibly solid on Batwoman. The black on red, such a striking color combination. Hard to make those colors not work, but they use them well here. The general body proportions are solid. The cape is great too. I love this kind of more spiky, angular edges to the cape. But unfortunately, which is kind of a running theme with this figure, or this line, this box set, wow, a lot of Freudian slips there. There's an issue. Batwoman's leg came warped out of the box, and that makes it a little bit hard to balance her. Even still, you can make it work, but this is another time where just having that figure stand would have really helped. However, let's look at the articulation real quick. So the hair does hinder the head, but you are able to still rotate it. You have forward and back on the shoulder, as well as universal. You have a double jointed elbow, works incredibly well. You have a universal at the wrist. You have a diaphragm joint and a waist joint. You have a universal at the hip. You have an upper leg cut. Ooh, one sec. Wow, that's tight. Okay. I can't make that rotate, can I? Can I force it? No, I can't. Okay. Oh, I'm starting to get it to work. Okay, so what about the other leg? No, that's... Wow, those are almost glued in place, but there is a cut there. I'll just work on it. There's a double joint at the knee, and then there is an articulated point here at the ankle and a toe joint. So, the usual McFarlane points all work very well. I hate that I'm having some defects on this Batwoman. I still like it. It's still my favorite figure in this 3-pack, but I do wish there was a little bit more quality control here between those frozen joints and the bogus leg. I could see someone saying that I'm giving way too much leniency on this 3-pack, but honestly, I got it on discount already. It was $30 to get these 3 figures, and at the end of the day, $30 wouldn't even get you a mega figure in this line usually. It wouldn't even get you the new collector's edition figures, those horrible things. So, I'm going to be a little bit more lenient on it, because you could still get it for that price. But even for the original asking price of $50, I think this is still fine. Because you got 2 really good, like, basic figures with the Batman and the Batwoman. Batwoman is a character exclusive to this 3-pack. And the Clayface is at the very least a unique mega figure that is hard to come by nowadays because he was one of the first ones released. So for all that included, I think this is a good 3-pack. It could have been more exciting. It could have had a little bit more pizzazz put into it. But for what it was, which is probably a 3-pack that was just an excuse to get Batwoman out there, it was decent. It was solid. I could see some people saying, like, oh, the reason this line, or this box set didn't work was because of Batwoman. Because very clearly it's going on sale. I don't think that's it at all. I think Batwoman is the highlight of this 3-pack. I think it's more, at least for me personally, the reason I didn't pull the trigger for so long, I didn't need the Clayface, and I didn't want the Batman. The two figures wound up fine in hand, but if this was Batwoman and maybe a different assortment of characters, I could see it getting over a little bit better. I'm trying to think, like, who could you have done instead? Maybe if you had gone with... I know Bane is recent, but maybe if you had gone for, like, Bane with, like, brighter colors to make him look more like 90s Bane, and then forget Batman. Put in a different member of the Bat family, like, say, Red Robin, Tim Drake. Or maybe give us Red Hood again. Oh, yeah, like, I would love, like a comic Red Hood. So, yeah, like, I think it really was character selection that did hurt this 3-pack, but it's not Batwoman's inclusion that hurt the character selection. It's very much just the general McFarlane overuse of Bruce Wayne. But even still, good 3-pack, good little trio, good deal if you get it on sale. I can recommend them, but I also understand if people want to pass it up, even though there is an incredible Batwoman figure in this 3-pack.